you go. Okay, so you're out camping in a tent for days and days and days.
Shefskyville.
Just to watch Zion Williamson walk into the locker room.
Yes. Welcome to Sports Center with John Anderson. I'm Steve Levy. And we had a special lead up to this game, wall-to-wall coverage.
Yes.
And then it happened. Let's take a look at how the night all started. It was filled with anticipation. Zion Williamson and Duke hosting North Carolina. The fans at Cameron Indoor, they're ready to blow the roof off the place. President Obama in the house. Zion himself was fired up. Look at this. 360 bam pregame, ready to put on a show. And then the first possession of the game. 33 ticks in. Turns in the paint, falls awkwardly. Play continues. Luke Mays gives it up to Cam Johnson, but all eyes and all the attention on Zion Williamson. Just watch. Plants hard with the left. Foot gives out. Foot goes through the sneaker. The sneaker didn't come off. He went through the sneaker. And he grabs his right knee. This is 33 seconds in. President Obama, you can see what he said. He saw what you saw. He was closer to the action. And Williamson's night was over. Did not return. Duke went to the social and called it a knee injury. And Maria Taylor now joins us from Cameron Indoor. And, you know, everybody wants to know, what is the very latest in Zion Williamson? What can you tell us to advance the story?
Well, sure, Steve. And, you know, immediately after, you could see Zion's dad come down from the stands and just talk with his son for a little bit. And at first, Zion, he said he was okay. But then you could see Nolan Smith, the director of basketball operations, bring out a new pair of shoes to see if maybe he could just go straight back into the game. And the reaction was no, it needed further evaluation back into the locker room. And even as I sat still in Cameron, but could kind of see through the hallway, you could see Zion running back and forth, jogging back and forth, really just trying to see if he could go again. But then his mother and his father and his brother all made their way back to the training room. And then I was told that they were able to watch the rest of the game there. Now, there are no MRI machines or X-ray machines located here in Cameron, so we don't know the severity of the injury, and obviously that further evaluation will have to take place outside of this gym. But I was told that Zion remained here. He did not go into the locker room at halftime to meet with the team then, but was able to watch the rest of the game with his family in the locker room, Steve.
This will lead to an awful lot of speculation, of course, and we will hear from Mike Krzyzewski live on SportsCenter as soon as he steps to a microphone. You can imagine what the tone of those questions will be like. Maria, so off the court, inside the arena, give us a feel. We tried to show the people what the atmosphere was like prior to the tip and the opening warm-up. So how drastically did it change before Zion went down to afterwards?
Well, Steve, I was even telling my producer in the truck before this game tipped off, this is crazy. I haven't felt anything like this before. I mean, the number of fans that were on the court, the number of media members that were here as former President Barack Obama came into the arena, and you could almost feel it. You could cut some of the excitement and the anticipation with a knife. And then the moment that Zion went down, you could almost feel a little bit of the deflation. And even as you watch kind of the body language as the Duke Blue Devils, you could see R.J. Barrett and talking to Cam Reddish saying, let's go, you know, let's get fired up. You could see a couple of all-player huddles, and you could really see Trey Jones in there saying, all right, guys, this is what we're going to do moving forward. But ultimately, they never were able to get that confidence back, and that's something Associate Head Coach John Shire said coming out of the locker room. We're getting good shots. We really just have to be a little bit more confident on the floor, and you can imagine what kind of confidence is lost when you lose a guy like Zion Williamson, who so much of your team depends on throughout games.
Yes, so the game drastically changes with the injury both on and off the court. That is Maria Taylor, center court, Cameron Indoor, with the very latest.
All right, as you can imagine, Twitter blowing up over the blown-out shoe. LeBron James tweeting, hope young fella is okay. Literally blew through his shoe. And then you have Donovan Mitchell, and he was a little more fatalistic and certainly capitalistic about what happened here. Again, let's remember all the money that went into this game, and these players get none of it, and now Zion gets hurt. Something has to change at the NCAA. Hopefully there will be more games to play before his freshman season is over. Jay Billis in the analyst seat at Durham for the game tonight. He always has the good seats for the best games. Jay, first off, you played a bunch of games as a player. You watch a bunch of them every year. You ever seen anything like this just in terms of an equipment failure?
No, I've seen a shoe blown out here and there over the course of my years, but I've never seen anything quite like this. When Zion Williamson went down, at first you thought he slipped, and then you looked a little bit closer and said, wait a minute, he blew his shoe out, and he was holding that right knee. And it was just a bizarre happening. And Maria Taylor's right. Like, the anticipation for this game, you were expecting that it was going to be so loud that you wouldn't be able to hear yourself think. And all the air came out of the building. And then North Carolina, when Duke took a knee, just came and punched them and knocked them out early. Duke had what seemed like a chance with about a minute and a half left to go in the first half to maybe cut into the lead and get it down to maybe one possession if they handled the end of half right. And North Carolina stretched it out to 10 points. Duke didn't handle it right, and Carolina handled it great and took it to 42-32, if I remember right. And then it was basically over. Carolina was so good in transition. They dominated the paint. 62 points in the paint for North Carolina in this game. They got him in transition. They got him off their great passing. They put the ball on the deck, got all the way to the rim. Duke's rotations, unable to stay in front, then unable to rotate over. And Luke May was outstanding. 30 points, 15 rebounds. Cameron Johnson had 25 points, 7 rebounds. He was spectacular. You got to give North Carolina a lot of credit. The story is going to be Zion Williamson and his knee. But you can't overlook that North Carolina took advantage of it and played very well on the road to tie for first place in the league again.
And Zion will be the story going forward as well as we look at this thing. And Maria Taylor said she peeked at him, and he was doing some straight line running, which is fine, but you know, you got to move laterally, and that could tell a whole different story when they X-ray him, MRI him and stuff. You preach team, but now Coach K is in a very real situation, right? You have to measure this kid's future now and the benefit of the team together, right?
Oh, yeah. No, they're not going to do anything that's going to be detrimental to Zion Williamson, not just for his NBA future, but just right now. They'll handle it right. That's not an issue for me. I don't worry about that for 1 second. But say that he's out for a period of time, misses the Syracuse game, misses the Virginia Tech game. Who knows? He may be back tomorrow. I have no idea. Right. But for argument's sake, say he misses some time. The question is, where's Duke going to get scoring? You know, Cam Reddish had 27 points in this game. R.J. Barrett obviously can score, but who's going to be their third scorer? I mean, you're losing with Zion Williamson out. Not only a tremendous presence in blocking shots and rebounding and transition, but a guy who gets you every night. 24 points, 9.5 rebounds, couple blocks, couple steals, and shoots 70% from the field. Like, you can't duplicate that with a couple extra guys coming in off the bench and hitting some shots. That is a gigantic loss. And you saw that it was not only a loss in productivity for Duke, but it was an energy loss, and it totally deflated the Duke team, and they were just not able to emotionally recover from that happening so early in the game.
And to your point, Reddish and Barrett, 21 of 45 from the field. The rest of the team, 4 of 27. Jay Billis, thanks for your time on a unique night in the Duke-UNC rivalry.
Never seen one like it. It always delivers. It delivered in a different way, but it still delivers.
So really the story is, no matter what you want to say about this game, the missing of Zion Williamson. Blue Devils really missed him in the paint. This will accentuate the point. They allowed 62 points in the paint against Carolina after allowing just 30 per game entering this one. North Carolina also recorded 14 second chance points. Reese, Jay, and Seth are standing by live on SportsCenter.
And to that point about the interior defense, North Carolina shot nearly 70% on two-point field goal attempts. You know, Duke is just the second program now, guys, to lose twice at home in the same season when ranked #1 in the AP poll, and both times sort of bizarre circumstances surrounding it. The loss to Syracuse, Trey Jones was injured early in the game. Tonight, Zion Williamson injured early in the game. What about the emotion of having to deal with something like that with a guy who's so important and trying to get yourself back up and play at the level you have to emotionally?
Well, Coach K always preaches about how do you bounce back from adversity. The only challenge with losing a guy like Zion is that he is such a utility weapon. I mean, he can do so many different things from a defensive perspective. The way he plays steals, the way he can really clean up mistakes with blocking the shot, the way he can attack the rim, getting into the paint. Losing him really limits their team because all of a sudden now R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish have to do so much more, and there's so much more attention on those two to stop. And, you know, the stat they said, I think it was 4 of 27 from the field, the rest of the team. They need that third scoring option, and they didn't get that this evening.
You know, I think emotionally, you talk about Zion Williamson, the energy, the passion, the enthusiasm that he plays with is contagious. And when you take that out of the equation, it absolutely sucks the wind out of anyone else that's playing, including Trey Jones, including R.J. Barrett. Now, on the court, coming into this game, we were talking about, does Carolina have a matchup for Zion Williamson? Without Zion Williamson, the question was, does Duke have a matchup for Luke May? No, they did not. And when you take out Zion Williamson, you take away rim protection. You also take away another disruptive defender. His ability, because Trey Jones is pressuring the ball, to then get up in passing lanes, knock passes away. They get 11 points off of turnovers today. That's not Duke basketball defensively.
This is a live look into the Duke locker room right now, and the players absorbing what just happened. You see Cam Reddish, Marquise Bolden in the middle, Trey Jones, and the guys, of course, I'm sure they're being asked about Zion Williamson. Maria Taylor told us earlier that, they will obviously waiting to examine him. Hopefully this is not a long-term injury situation. Seth, quickly, I do want to ask you, and not to speculate on the injury, but if worst-case scenario, without Zion Williamson, I think they're the best team in the country with him. I think it's not even close. Without him, what are they?
I think at best a second weekend team. At best. Look, they've got three great players. You're talking about Trey Jones, you're talking about R.J. Barrett, you're talking about Cam Reddish. But I'll tell you, they don't have rim protection, they don't have another guy to disrupt defensively, and they don't have anyone to throw the ball to on the block.
I think they're a second weekend team, but I'm not going to give them excuses. They still have two guys that can go top 5 in NBA draft. You have that. Not a lot of other teams in this nation have that. You can work off that. Now, do they have issues? Yes, they do. Every team in college basketball has issues. I think this team still has a chance to come together collectively, and it starts on the defensive end, Seth.
They were awful.
They were horrible. And granted, they didn't handle the situation with Zion correctly today, but that takes a minute to bounce back from. And sometimes it takes a learning experience like this for a team to grow together.
Let's give Carolina some credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were terrific. Garrison Brooks was terrific. And they did this without Kobe White, because Kobe White was not good today.
Yeah, he didn't have his best game. Luke May goes 30-15, the first Carolina guy to go 30-10 against Duke since Antoine Jamison did it. There's Roy Williams, who now has 8 wins against AP-ranked #1 teams. That is more than any other coach ever. Back to SportsCenter.